13 books in 13 minutes. That's what I'm gonna try and do in this video. I'm gonna talk about each of the books in a series of unfortunate events, and we'll see how that goes, because if you watch this channel, you know that I could probably talk about each book for 13 minutes. So I thought this would just be kind of fun to do, just to kind of see if I could do it. So just 1 minute, and here we go. The first book is The Bad Beginning, which is the opening of the series of unfortunate events, where we meet the Baudelaire kids, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, and they just lost their parents in a house fire. And the parents left them a substantial fortune, but they can't get the money yet until Violet becomes of age, and so they have to go and live with their nearest relative, who happens to be this man named Count Olaf. And he's kind of a mean man, and basically he wants to take their money by marrying Violet, and of course she's really young. But he figures out this plan to be able to do that, and it looks like he's about to win, but the kids find a way to sort of get out of it, and then everyone figures out that he's actually a bad guy, and then he escapes, and the Baudelaires are taken to their next guardian. What I like about this book is that it sets the tone pretty much for the rest of this series, the narrator, the style, the vocabulary, and really it's just a very nice opening to this long series. The next book is The Reptile Room, where the kids are taken to Uncle Monty, who's a snake expert or a herpetologist, and he wants to take them on this expedition, this trip to Peru, and I think the kids are pretty excited about it. Uncle Monty hires a new assistant whose name is Stefano, but when Stefano arrives, the kids see that it's actually Count Olaf, and they're trying to tell Uncle Monty, but he doesn't believe them. Uncle Monty actually gets murdered by Count Olaf, and just as the kids are about to be taken away by Stefano, by Count Olaf, they sort of uncover his plan. They kind of like take off the disguise, and everyone can now see it. Count Olaf runs, and the kids are then taken to the next guardian. What I like about this story is that it introduces dramatic irony, which is a concept for kids that's kind of complicated, but the author introduces it in kind of a fun, sort of very general, easy way to understand. The next book is The Wide Window, where the kids are taken to Aunt Josephine, who is kind of scared of a lot of things, and she really likes grammar. But they end up meeting this sea captain who just came to town, and it is in fact Count Olaf in disguise. And again, no one believes the Baudelaire kids, but eventually I think Aunt Josephine, in talking with the captain, she is aware that it is Count Olaf, but she writes this sort of sad suicide note, and she supposedly jumps out the window. What ends up happening is that the kids read the suicide note, and they figure out that she's actually hiding somewhere across the lake. So they take a boat and they go across the lake to get her, and when they bring her back, they encounter Count Olaf, who pushes Aunt Josephine into the lake, and she gets eaten by the leeches. And just as he's about to win, Count Olaf is about to take the kids again sort of look right through his disguise, and they uncover his disguise. And so Count Olaf runs away again, and the kids are taken to their next guardian. In The Miserable Mill, the kids are taken to a lumber mill, and they're under the care of Sir and Charles, or the lumber mill bosses, and they're pretty much put to work the entire time. It's pretty tough, and Count Olaf isn't really anywhere in the beginning. But then Klaus has to repair his glasses a couple of times, and then they get to go to the optometrist, where they meet the receptionist, who is Count Olaf in disguise. And the deal is that if the Baudelaires cause any more trouble at the lumber mill, the receptionist will take over and win guardianship over the kids. And so Klaus has been hypnotized by the optometrist. He's about to cause an accident at the lumber mill, but he breaks hypnosis from Violet, and everything is all good. Count Olaf escapes, and then the kids are shipped off to a prep school. What I like about the story is that it's about the kids against their external environment. It's not really about them against Count Olaf. The fifth book is The Austere Academy, where the kids are put into Prufrock Prep, and it's weird because they don't really fit in that well, except for a couple of other kids. They're the Quagmires, and surprisingly, the Quagmires, they also had their house burned in a fire. They also have a lot of wealth, and so they kind of get along. But the school hires a new gym teacher, who is of course Count Olaf in disguise, and what's ended up happening is that the kids end up having to run laps at night, so they're really tired and they don't do well in school, and they're about to get kicked out of the school because they're doing such a bad job. in which case they would then go to Count Olaf, who's the gym coach. What ends up happening is that the kids end up passing the exams and they end up doing okay, but Count Olaf takes the Quagmires and they split. What I like about this story is that the plan to beat the Baudelaires from Count Olaf's perspective is pretty complex. It's actually another layer. It's just not him trying to get the money. He actually tries to get them tired so they get kicked out. The next book is Ersatz Elevator, where the children are put into the custody of a couple of very, very wealthy people. The Squallers. The husband is very relaxed, but the wife is kind of, she's very trendy. She likes new trends. What ends up happening is that the kids discover that there's going to be an auction coming up where Mrs. Squaller is going to host it, and she hires a auctioneer who happens to be Count Olaf. And as the kids sort of investigate more and more, they discover that the Quagmires are actually in the elevator chute. But by the time they figure that out, Mrs. Squaller pushes them and catches them in a net, and she's actually been working with Count Olaf the entire time. Now the kids are trying to get back to the auction in time so that they can hopefully bid for the item that they think is holding the Quagmires, except that it's actually not holding the Quagmires in that item. And so Count Olaf and Mrs. Squaller end up escaping with the Quagmires, and the kids, they don't really know what they're going to do next except search for the Quagmires. Alright, almost there. Number 7. This is the Vile Village, and now the children are put under the guardianship of an entire town, but the town has a lot of strict rules, so the kids don't really understand what's going on, except there's a really nice man in the town named Hector, and he sort of helps them because he has a secret library and he has a secret workshop, and so the kids love him. But the kids figure out that the Quagmires are somewhere in that village, which I'm not really sure why. And the kids try to find them, and they find them through a series of poem clues, and they figure out that they're actually in the town statue. Unfortunately, Count Olaf arrives and Mrs. Squaller are there to sort of act as security, as detectives, trying to figure this whole thing out. Hector and the Quagmires escape in his hot air mobile home, but the Baudelaires are left behind and they end up walking into the desert. Next is the Hostile Hospital. So the Baudelaires are picked up by these volunteers that work at a hospital, and they end up getting jobs in this library of records, and they're very curious because the library of records might have information about their family, about the VFD, which is this weird secret organization they're trying to figure out. But what ends up happening is the Baudelaires get separated, where Violet gets captured and the other two, Klaus and Sunny, are they kind of escape. But what's going to happen is that Violet is going to have a craniectomy, where they're basically going to saw off her head. And so Klaus and Sunny disguise themselves as surgeons, as doctors, and they actually infiltrate Count Olaf's crew, and they're asked to perform the surgery. Fortunately, they escape with Violet and they rush out of the hospital. But the hospital burns on fire, Count Olaf runs away, and the kids actually go into Count Olaf's trunk as they're driving off in the distance. Number 9 is the Carnivorous Carnival, and the kids end up with Count Olaf at this carnival that's run by Madame Lulu, who actually has been helping Count Olaf figure out where the kids have been going all these different places. That's how he's able to figure it out. And in order to win favor from Madame Lulu, Count Olaf decides to have a new exhibit, a new act at the carnival, where he's going to feed the House of Freaks participants, the performers, to the lions every day. Now, to infiltrate the carnival, the kids dress up as these individuals who have like weird things about them, so a two-headed person and like a wolf baby. But what ends up happening is that the kids figure out Madame Lulu's secret, and actually she is a VFD volunteer. But by the time they figure it all out and they're gonna try to escape with her, Madame Lulu gets pushed into the lion's pit and she gets eaten, and the kids don't really know what to do. So they go with Count Olaf, except Count Olaf recognizes and sees right through the disguises. So Count Olaf takes Sunny up the mountain, but actually leaves Klaus and Violet behind. So book number 10 is The Slippery Slope, where Count Olaf and his crew are basically up in the Morkmane Mountains, and Violet and Klaus are trying to rescue their sister. And they encounter these snow scouts who they recognize some of the people, but one of the scouts actually takes them in a secret passage up the mountains to the VFD headquarters. Unfortunately, the headquarters are all burned down, but that particular scout was Quigley Quagmire, who is one of the missing siblings from the Quagmires that the Baudelaires knew from earlier. So they try to figure out how they're gonna get Sunny back from Count Olaf, and they want to make this trade, but it doesn't really work out with this trap. So they actually end up talking to Count Olaf and saying that they know where this sugar bowl is, which is what Count Olaf actually wants. In the end, the kids end up escaping down the stream, but they get separated from Quigley, and so the kids are now in the stream headed out towards the ocean. We also meet a couple of characters, a man with a beard but no hair, and a woman with hair but no beard, and they actually seem to be worse bad guys than Count Olaf. Book 11 is the Grim Grotto, and the kids are still in the stream, but they get picked up by a submarine, which is kind of unusual, and they meet the captain and the crew, which they meet Phil again. They see him from the mill, but they also meet Fiona and Captain Wittershins. And basically what happens is they're trying to find where the sugar bowl could possibly be, because there's some kind of secret. So they head down to the location where they think it is, and they go in this cave, but in the cave there is this poisonous fungi, and so they go back to the submarine, but by the time the kids get back to the submarine, the crew is all gone, so it's just the kids. And unfortunately, one of the spores of the poisonous fungi got into Sunny's diving helmet, so she's like super sick from this fungi, but they figure out that horseradish is the cure, and so they actually end up curing her. But Count Olaf is there with his submarine, so he actually swallows them up and he captures them. What happens at the end is the Baudelaires escape the submarine and they go and meet this woman named Snicket who drives them away. Number 12 is the Penultimate Peril. So the kids are taken to this Hotel Denouement, where it's like crowded with good people and bad people, and you don't really know who's good or bad. It's just kind of, you gotta watch them to figure it out. But there's gonna be a meeting of all the good volunteers soon, and the kids basically have to figure out who is good and who is bad, and if it's safe for all the volunteers to meet there. They work as hotel concierge, and they basically run around and do all the things that the people want. They recognize a lot of the people that are there. But what happens is one of the managers named Dewey kind of explains a lot of the VFD, but he gets killed by a harpoon gun, and everyone sort of hears it, and now the Baudelaires and Count Olaf are put on trial. The problem is that when they're put on trial, two of the judges are Count Olaf's accomplices, so of course he's never gonna get convicted. So Count Olaf tries to find the sugar bowl in one of the rooms, and they end up escaping together in a boat as the hotel burns down. Alright, the 13th book. So the Baudelaires and Count Olaf are drifting at sea in their boat. They get shipwrecked and they end up on this deserted island, but except there's a whole bunch of people on this island and a lot of things wash up on shore. They meet the island leader Ishmael, who is kind of manipulative and just tells them to not do anything that goes against their island customs. Then one day, a whole bunch of stuff comes ashore, and it includes a woman named Snicket, who is their friend, and she's pregnant. And the island people don't know really how to react to all of this, so they basically banish Kit and the Baudelaires. They lock up Count Olaf and they take everything, all the books, and they put it on this other side of the island where they have all these different things. But the Baudelaires want to go to the other side of the island to go and check it out, and they end up discovering this sort of secret room under this apple tree, and Ishmael is there and he kind of explains what's going on. When they get back to the main camp, there's a mutiny taking place, and in that struggle, Count Olaf is there. He has the poisonous fungi, but in that scuffle he gets injured and releases the poisonous fungi, so everyone is sick. In order to get better, the kids go back to the apple tree and they do some research, and they figure out that the apple tree actually has horseradish sort of fused in with the apple, so they eat it and they feel better. Eventually the islanders all go and you don't know what happens to the islanders, but Snicket gives birth, or is trying to give birth, right there on the beach. But the kids can't really help her, so they ask Count Olaf for help. He helps her, but then he dies. So then Kit gives birth to Beatrice, who is the new baby girl, but then Kit dies, and the Baudelaires have to raise Beatrice on the island. Eventually 1 year passes, and they decide to go and leave. Whew, that was a lot of summary, but it was quite the interesting video, quite the challenge. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.